Good evening, everyone. How are you keeping? Trying to make a rollie here before I get going because then I can chat away to myself nearly. But gonna kind of keep an eye on it's just a rambling tonight, so I'm just gonna chat with you like and go over a few things like, but nothing too major, you know. Well, the obvious elephant in the room is O'Gorman in the march on Saturday. I hope you're all able to get down to it because fucking hell, it's mental. Like I was listening to that Matt Cooper. Jesus Christ, it was bad. It was the weakest interview I think one of the weakest I've ever heard. Like on a broadcast, and Jesus, I've heard some bad ones. Like, but yeah, like no question. Like it was just going through the narrative and like some boilerplate answers that Thatchell had ready. And it was just absolutely, I don't know if you've heard it yourselves, like it was a farce, like, you know, it was just like a PR release, you know, or like a media release. That was basically all it was, like. And he's on Niall Boylan tomorrow night. Hopefully Niall actually asks him a couple of questions, except, you know, like, probes at least a bit, like, because that was just, it was absolutely diabolical interview. And like that Matt Cooper, I never rated him anyway. I know he's got like all these accolades and all this kind of crack, like, but you know, you don't get journalistic accolades in Ireland for doing your job, like. But yeah, I think the Thatchell thing, like, it's been covered widely now at this stage. Like, you know, we have Catholic Arena done a good article about it there. I seen it earlier on Irish Sentinel or something it was. Worth reading. Like, he goes into the kind of Eastern Europeans are like old Europe, you know, and like us, we're this libertarian or liberal, both, I suppose, kind of mess at this stage. Like, you know, the new religion. I don't know, I think that's a fair description at this stage anyway. Written by a spin doctor, says John Paul Williams. It's definitely like this fella's well connected. Thatchell, I'm on about now. Like with his like even the copy paste answers that he was given on Twitter. Like this fella, he knows some of the best in the business. Like he was invited to, you know, obviously Pride 2018 by. I think someone told me it was Eamon Ryan. It was the Green Party, like Eamon Ryan was the leader that invited him. And he was invited to the one in London by Theresa May. Like, this fella's not a, you know, an anorak wearing hiding in his fucking, in his garage. Like, he's a high roller, really, like, you know. And it's all fucking, do you know what Jesus Christ, like, whatever, back in the 80s, yeah, that's grand. Well, you know, I'm on about their movement, as it's called at the minute. Like, but I was reading some of what he is up on his website, and Jesus Christ, like, it is critical culture, as in like deconstructing Western society from a gay perspective. Same as, like, you know, institutionalized racism for blacks. It's copy and paste into institutionalized homophobia against straights. Like, it's the exact same thing. He was on about that equality is never the equality. What did Brainbury saying something here? Libertine, not libertarian. There's no freedom of speech. Yeah, true enough. Like, yeah, sorry, he's correcting my terminology here, but sure, I'm only a farmer. But Thatchell, like, I was reading this thing. It says it was never about equality, and it's about destroying the systems that straight people have put together, because a gay person suddenly is so different that they are not able to operate in that system. It's just like, Jesus Christ, like, you all know about the LGBT crack. Like, you know, there's a lot of letters that's not mentioned on that, obviously, like the main reason for the march on Saturday. Well, kind of the flame that lit it. Like, there's a lot more to come out now. I think there's quite a bit on Fianna Fáil and different parties, like Labour Party and all, and it's just kind of, it's at the stage now where it's like it has been at the stage that it just can't be ignored. Like, and now the fire is lit. So yeah, fucking pour petrol on it, please, and get down if you can, if you can make it. Like, get down, swell those numbers, like, because here you don't have to be any political ideology to know that this is fucking mental. Like, and a lot of normies know that too. Like, and I hope that anyone that can make it, you know, whatever your own personal precautions for health reasons or whatever, but you know, Jesus, it'd be great to have a big march that just cannot be ignored, like, or a protest or whatever format it's taken. But yeah, like, even like it branches into all this stuff. It branches into the new sex ed for kids and everything, like, and it's like, I'm at the stage, I'm kind of sitting here, my eyes are half shut nearly. I'm just kind of like fecked out from, like, you know, sitting on Twitter and fucking writing letters and emails and ringing people, and oh, like, honestly, I just wish he'd fucking resign and the government would collapse. Like, at this stage, it'd be like Christmas. Take a couple of days off before the posters are made and back on, get back out, you know. But I don't think life's usually that easy. So yeah, no, like, I'm gonna just kind of like ramble and chat like a bit about history and stuff like that, and like, kind of as a branch of that. Like, I was on about Fianna Fáil, like, and child abuse cover ups and stuff like that. And I know there's been more recent ones, and there's been, obviously, those ones before it too. But like in Donegal, Fianna Fáil, obviously, you had the, like, say, the Gemma O'Doherty documentary, and you know, it's like, it was about time that someone made a documentary about it, like, but you know, not taken away from what Gemma done at all, like, but like, these things were being talked about for years. Like, you all know Daniel O'Donnell, like, but his sister Margot is also a singer, like, but she's good friends with Anne Boyle, who's Mary Boyle's twin sister. She's a lovely woman, like, I met her a few times, and it's like, around that part of the country, there is, and there was anyway, and there still is, like, but awful, like, a lot of people who, like, wouldn't really bother with politics, or wouldn't be trying to get planning permission, or trying to, you know, do different things that kind of require the state apparatus, like guards or county councils or something like that. It's mental, like, what was going on, like, and I'm pretty sure it's still going on, like, you know, like in Donegal County Council, you've, at the minute, you've Frank McBurty Jr., like, he was framed for murder by the guards, like, so that's the kind of Donegal politic, like. But back in Mary Boyle's day, like, there used to be a thing, and locally it's known as the Old Pals Act. And it was basically like that a couple of politicians and a couple of the top guards in Donegal, that they all grew up together, like, a lot of them, you know, like, there was two in particular, one of the guards and one of the politicians, but the politicians, like, well, they all kind of knew each other, like, you know. Like, I seen there, it was actually on that, what you call him, the Poison Dwarf, his YouTube channel. It was one of those Today Tonight programs from 1985 about corruption in Donegal. You know, I was watching through it, and I was like, we were laughing at it. Like, and I knew all this, like, I'd heard all these stories before, like, and I was still laughing at it, like, just because I always assumed, like, you know, in my innocence, that they weren't completely fucking brazen about it, like, you know, that the politicians would have been suave enough, but they're not, like, they're fucking, like, no point really mentioning names, like, but there were two Fianna Fáil boys from the Bundoran area, and Jesus Christ, like, there was one of them. You should probably just watch the link, like, but it is. I'll try and find it. I'll put it up on Twitter or something after, but it was absolutely, sound not great. Is there an improvement there? I'll see if I can get into the settings here. Is there any ringing or anything like that? Can you just tell me? I can swap around with the input and stuff like that. Sometimes my laptop, it just fucking swaps around stuff. Output down a wee bit. input down a wee bit. Is that any better? Can you hear me? Still too much? Is that any feedback at all there? I think I had it this way. Yeah, I think that might have to do. Any better there? Anyways, I'll keep talking anyway until I get another message. Yeah, like there was a lot of cases like that Mary Boyle thing. Obviously, was one. Back in, like, I'm going way back now, like in Donegal, but like into the 1920s, 30s, you used to have good man John Paul. The what you call it? I'm sorry, I got thrown off there. I'll get back on. So the train of thought. Like I was talking to an old fella, and he like, obviously he knew an old fella, but he can remember like that fella talking to him about the higher fares. Like you often hear about them, like back in the famine times and stuff like that. And the reason, like, you used to think about, like, especially all them Magdalene laundries and like Ireland's like sordid past with abusing people in the past and all that kind of crack. Like all them Magdalene laundries, like they were set up by British like landlords that was, kind of funded by, like, say, the Protestant Church in Ireland. That if they had like starving peasants, that they could just dump them in a workhouse. Like that's where all that started off. Like that's where that tradition or whatever came out of. Like the workhouses in what do you call it? Like in British times, like say like 1916 or whatever, 1920 backwards. Like they were all like just British state establishments. Like, and whenever the Irish Free State happened, and we were by all measures a third world country at that stage. All they done was they basically threw us the keys and just said, right, you deal with it. And that's why I could never understand, like obviously, like it's obviously not an ideal situation to have people in the workhouses. But the thing is like, whenever you have people that are still decimated, like that societies were completely destroyed in the 1850s, like wiped out, like villages wiped out. And then 50 years or 60 years later, one generation, basically one set of old people later, just go, right, oh well, we should be running this country perfectly. Like it's like the modern thinking on the workhouses and the Magdalene laundries and all is just like, it's nuts, like. But obviously, then whenever you're talking about a state establishment at that stage, obviously, and the politicians had a lot of say in what was going on in that, and the people in them didn't have a lot of say what was going on in that. But that's just the way things are. Like, especially like you look in Africa today, do you think the kids in the orphanages are having much of a say of how they're being treated? Like they can barely keep Boko Haram coming in and fucking kidnapping 300 girls at a time or whatever. But whenever you get down to the nitty gritty personal enabling of people in power, that's a string there. If you pluck that, this country is rotten. Like the backroom dealings. Like you think of like say after the Civil War, you basically have and realistically, you have about 5 or 6 groups, big, powerful groups, like that are vying for power, under different figureheads and with different objectives and paths they're going around it, all that kind of crack. And like you think of the boys' clubs, and I use boy clubs, but obviously, the women were involved in this too, and don't be all rosy-eyed about it. Like, but they, like the power that they wielded, especially in rural, like, say rural areas, or even like a club in a city or whatever, like it was so ripe for abuse. Like, and that is the problem. Like, people always go, oh, Civil War, it's terrible, brother against brother, all this kind of like romanticized stuff nearly, like. But no, but the fact is that the fallout of a civil war is absolutely massive. Like a lot of places never a lot of countries never recover from a civil war or completely collapse completely. Like, it's okay to be Irish. How's it going, eh? how's things? But yeah, like trying to like I think that's a lot to do with like the damage is done at that stage. Like, do you think of say the troubles in the north, even in the 70s? Like, how long? Like 50 years ago, right? So, like they are not like a lot of that's never going to heal. Like, so I'm just kind of big thinking at the same time here. I'm kind of talking about child abuse in the country as a kind of a fact of what happened, like versus the country, it was in tatters really, like Northern Ireland was basically like Somalia. You had warlords running areas in a lot of places, like you think of Derry or Belfast City or all these different places, like, and they were complete messes. And I was talking about Donegal, probably go back to it. Donegal was no different. You had a state apparatus there. You had basically a 2 or 3 mile strip at the bottom between Fermanagh and the Atlantic Ocean. And beyond that, you had whatever, the guts of 100 or 200,000 people, depending on the period of time, like, since the 20s. About what, 120,000 now, like, but that's been going down steadily every year, like, It's only Sligo, Leitrim, Mayo, and Donegal, I think, that their populations are actually dropping. Everywhere else is going up. But yeah, it's a bad old situation now. But I keep losing my train of thought. Just going to try and Dublin's getting like Somalia now. Yeah, like Letterkenny is Letterkenny up here. Like, you'd be lucky to see someone you knew. Like, so the Serbs have stormed their government buildings as a result of a second lockdown, says Dayersvold. Yeah, like Jesus, what's happening in Australia? Like that's just crazy altogether. It's like 500 cops keeping a couple of thousand people in a couple of apartment buildings. They're like bringing in and out food and washing and stuff like that. It's like Jesus, like like I don't want that to happen to me, obviously, but I still don't think it's a massive. Well, no, it is massive. Like, but what I mean is like a global coordinated effort, to like enslave mankind or whatever. I think it's only like a distraction at this stage, like, Although, to be fair, that tracking app, I wouldn't use it, like, because I like here, like, if the government said, yeah, here we want to track your movements to see where you're going and who you're talking to, I'd kind of be like, no, I'm going to have a healthy distrust of that, definitely. Like, and like, I'm not saying that there isn't a plan to, you can call it whatever control or enslave the population. Like, I would think the Chinese social credit system, like that, they seem to be bringing. Yeah, good to see you in Longford. Great day. Great evening altogether. Nice part of the country. But it was priming them for a second wave. Yeah, probably. Like I was listening to that time. I don't know if you've watched it, the critique stream with Marcus de Bruin. Like, it was, he was saying like now is the time to kind of nearly get it. That during the summer, you can get out and about a bit more. Like, which obviously is perfectly valid scientific reasoning. Like, people get colds because they're in the winter because they're sitting in a house together, like, and one person brings it in and everybody gets the dose. Like, that's just it doesn't even need to be said. Like, but yeah, it's just kind of like Jesus. At this stage, I think, like, if you're looking at Ireland now, like, who have this, like, have they saved many? I don't think so. To be fair, I think nearly everyone that they could have killed, they've killed. Like, with bad planning and poor, like bringing people out of hospitals, like, that were elderly and putting them in nursing homes without testing them. It's like, Jesus, like, how basic do you have to get? And now Holohan, he's resigned or whatever. His wife is sick, but like, Jesus Christ, he got the freedom of Dublin then, like, and it's like, yeah, right, it wasn't an easy job because we were looking at it A few of us and a lot of people obviously were looking at it like, but to figure out like what exactly would you do, like, or what would be the right plan of action. And like you could preempt. I understand that the government is slow to react, like, and that there is a case of, you can't just tell a lorry on the motorway to turn around kind of thing, like, but the weeks, like the weeks and even up to a month of basic things that were known, like even now they're telling people that they should be taking vitamin D. Like that's just nuts. How why would you be telling people now? Like, like, people knew this. We were conspiracy theorists saying this a couple of months ago. We were conspiracy theorists whenever we said that people should be wearing masks at the beginning. Whenever we said that the country should be locked down at the end of January for a month, like New Zealand did, we were conspiracy theorists. And then suddenly now, like, because we're saying, well, there's not really fucking much point in wearing a mask, like, because, it's in all the nursing homes, all the elderly people are terrified at this stage, so they're just staying at home anyway. And, you're going into a shop and it's always the same people that you're, like, I'm in a rural area, obviously, like, so it's kind of different for city dwellers or whatever, but like, yeah, like, they've wiped out, you know, I keep referring back to Marcus de Bruin, like, but whenever it came to the do not resuscitate forms in the south, like the doctors in good faith were saying, well, this person, he or she is 90 years of age, they're in poor health as it is. So if they do get very sick, we're just going to let them go, which is kind of sad, but it's a fact of life, whatever. But then you look at what actually happened then transpired, like the National Party video with the care worker, and listening then to De Bruyne, like where he had 50 patients and whatever, like I forget how many of them died, like, but it was like, Jesus Christ, you may as well went in and I'm not trying to be funny, but you may as well have just put a pillow over their face, like for the good you done them, like. And he got the freedom of the city. Like, that's sick to me. Like, that's like a sick joke. That's like dancing on someone's grave, nearly. Donegal, our excess mortality rate is the same as Sweden. So there you go. Like Sweden, as in Sweden that didn't bother to do anything, that just carried on as normal. We didn't do as bad. And I remember last Donegal as well. He was saying that we have a generally an older population than Sweden as well. So that's another mess altogether. The nursing homes worst affected areas are all within 2 radius, 2 circles, one in Naas and the other in Swords and Lucan. Didn't know that now. I'd love to, I know those people trying to get this information, but being able to find out, like, what patients from what hospitals were sent to what nursing homes, like, because it happened in my area too, like, or in the, around Donegal, in the northwest in general, like where there was elderly people that were brought into the nursing homes, then suddenly, like 2 or 3 weeks later, oh Jesus, it's in the nursing home, and then all like half of those people then were shipped out to other nursing homes. It was like, what, like, and I don't know if that was through like was the workers sick or whatever, like that kind of stuff, but if Holohan hadn't deliberately is the word there. If Holohan hadn't deliberately let it into the nursing homes, like, it had to have been deliberately. 15 dead out of 50, I assume that is in Marcus de Bruin's. Jesus, it'd make you fucking proper angry, like, tell you the truth. Like, I came here for the laugh, but I didn't come here to to start fucking banging my fist, like, but Jesus Christ, like, it is a joke, like. Yeah, you're right. It's all PR, definitely. Like, how I can't understand how people think we did well. Like, it's just amazing the strength of the power of the media. Like, you slap a tie on someone and you introduce them as a title, and it's like, oh Jesus, they like 80% of people on something, like if they're on RT, will listen to them and think that they're an expert. It's just crazy. Like, Jesus, I nearly got uh, sorry, I'm laughing at the chat here. There was like there's fellas I know, like, and they'd be like they get up nearly all their information off the news, and you'd start to, like, you'd just be like, they'd say something and you'd be like, oh, but whatever. You give a kind of a counterfact and say, like, well, in comparison, like, we didn't do too great or whatever. And they'd be like, they'd say something else, and then you'd be like, yeah, but there's another stat there, like, and they'd nearly get angry at you. And it's just like, "Lad, I'm only telling you numbers, like, calm down." But there's a lot of people like that, like, and it's just like, how entrenched in this, like, it's nearly a psychological problem at this stage, like, you're trying to figure out psychology on the fly, like, I suppose we all kind of do it to a certain extent when we're chatting to people anyway, like, but oh, it's absolutely fucking beyond belief what the state, like, and it goes, like, I was talking about the, what you call it, the workhouses, the laundries that we had in this country, like, and the scale that of effort it takes to turn around anything, basically, like any institution. But, like, Jesus Christ, it's the 21st century. Like, we have lorries that can go fucking 60 mile an hour up and down motorways around Dublin. We have, instant communication. We have, massive file databases at our disposal. Like, and this is the best it could do. Like, this was like TB. This was like an outbreak of TB. This is worse than an outbreak of TB. And TB is a fucking bad old one. Like, people, like, up around here, I was chatting to a couple of my neighbours, like, and they were born before TB got eradicated, like, and they were saying it was nearly like treated the same way as COVID. Like, it's like if someone had COVID, it was like, don't tell anybody. Just put them in, like, if a young person had it, just sit the fuck at home, shut up, don't tell anyone you had it. Whatever, do whatever the fucking government tell you, but don't be telling neighbours and stuff like that, and don't be worrying them. And it was the same with TB back in, like, the 50s, the 40s and 50s in this country. Like, whole families fucking sitting at home and dying, and it was like, Jesus, pure mental, like. But yeah, you'd think things would improve, but sure, it's it's I don't know, maybe it's the caliber of people leading the charge, which is, a distinct possibility, like. But yeah, I always end up saying at the end of these things, I always go, yeah, things would be different if I was in charge, like. But I suppose if people are being hired into the civil service by, oh, that's Jim Bob's nephew or something, like, it's fucking, TB was called the consumption. Yeah, it was fucking consumed you, ate you alive, like, you withered away. It's like fucking, oh Jesus, I'm glad I never witnessed anyone with TB. Like, actually, there was an outbreak of TB up here not so long ago, but they can treat it now, obviously, like. It's actually a very interesting story on how they managed to cure TB as well. It was a German doctor, I believe. I think he was he in England or America or something at the time, but he basically made a cure that it kind of, the original cure of it, what it done was it basically made you look healthy for a while and feel a bit better. And then after, like, a couple of months, either you just stayed that way or else you just dropped dead, like, you like puked up blood and died, like, But eventually they actually got something that attacks the TB. Like, I can't remember all the technical terms now, so I won't even try. Like, but it's a very interesting history, a bit of medical history. Like, we used to have a thing as well. It was like, in America, it was nearly like scurvy. It was a type of scurvy. Like lack of vitamins, like, because they started feeding people like cornbread, like, poor people, like cornbread and stuff like that, and they just used to break out. It was like they used to call it the madness or something, but they basically start breaking out into like spots and all this kind of stuff, and suddenly, like, their temper would snap, like they had rabies, like. And eventually, like, it was realized, like, oh shit, you have to actually feed people properly, like, because it was basically like cornbread and molasses was like what people used to eat, like basically just marmalade sandwiches all the time, with minus the oranges. So, oh, house critique, Ty. I'm glad you enjoy it. I just I came on this evening. I was like, for the last couple of days with all this stuff that's been happening, like, for the last, Jesus, for how long? It's been a constant flow. The information overload nearly is hitting me at this stage. I just thought I'd have a nice midweek, kick back and just kind of chat about anything except fucking O'Gorman, like, for an hour, just to kind of rattle through what's in my head, like. I was kind of thinking at the start, I was sitting there earlier on, I was starting the stream, I was like, oh yeah, I'll talk about this and I'll talk about that, whatever. Like, and then I just kind of thought to myself, I was like, Jesus, I was like, well, I was going to talk about what Irish monks in Iceland before the Vikings got there, what you call them, the pappers. Oh, let's get a crack. I thought, Jesus, there might be an audience for that. Like, but I was just kind of talking about. I'm just reading the chat here. I do get distracted at times. The visitor ban. Yeah, chillax stream. Just like, I was flicking through an old book. It was actually a relative of mine wrote it back in like 1870 something. He fought Shaka Zulu. He joined the British Army, and he wrote a book about growing up in my area, and he was a bit of a poet, like, wrote some lovely stuff about a local river, and talked about his time in the British Army, like, but he wasn't anti-Irish by any means, like, this was like back in the 1800s or whatever. It would have been very, it was more that they needed work, like this would have been just post, like, he would have been born just after the famine, and it's a great wee book now altogether. But it's nice that he writes a lot of it in what do you call that? Whenever, like, phonetically or whatever, of how the locals around here speak, like, and it's amazing how little it's changed over the years. There's a couple of words that they would have used that we don't, but other than that, it's like it's amazing to have a bit of history like that. Like I do often wonder, like, how are we going to store sound if if there's ever a major disaster or something like that. All the streams will be back. We'll be back to pens and candlelight, But yeah, it's nice to have these things, like, to look back over. And it's funny then if you think about that too, like, that was just before the famine, like, and there's stories in our family that have been passed down, like, from people who would have lived through the famine. And it wasn't actually too far from where I am right now. And the stuff that they had to go through, like, and how people survived and all, like. But people used to talk, like, you'd be chatting to, like, say, the old ones now, and whenever they were, like, younger than me, they would have been chatting the old ones, and that was the famine. The famine survivors, a lot of them, well, a couple of them anyway. And like, they'd be talking about, like, absolutely, like, you wouldn't even see it in the worst part of Ethiopia during the fucking 80s with Geldof running around it, like, like people fucking dying in ditches and all that kind of crack. And it's like, we're not too far removed from our history, really. Like, we're only, we're the product of those people, like, that survived that. And hopefully it's that fighting spirit hasn't been put out of us altogether, like, because I do see it rising now this last while, and it's great to see, like, altogether. But it's just kind of a case of we're between a rock and a hard place, really, like. But I suppose we'll just have to bait at it until we get through to the other side, like. But I'm just looking out a window at a lovely sunset here, and kind of, it all seems so calm, and then I look at my phone and I'm like, oh Jesus, oh God, nearly Saturday now. Hopefully you'll get a good turnout, like. And I'm just kind of rambling to myself at this stage, like. Just thinking, like, whenever the famine ones, whenever they were young, they would have remembered the boys of, like, 17 1798 and all that kind of crack. It's funny whenever you kind of think of it in grandfather terms, like. 60 years or 70 years difference between the generations. Like, it's like the Tom Barry interview. He was saying like, oh, the Irish always talk about that they've been fighting for 800 years, and he's like, they did not. It's my worst Cork accent anyway, but it's true. Like, we kind of blossom as a people, I think, in hardship. It's like all our wars are merry and all our songs are sad, kind of thing. We're I think was it 1 p.m. is the march, by the way. Critique says that there was a bit of confusion over that, and that was annoying the hell out of me. Like, personally, I know it was annoying a lot of people. It was like there was different groups just kind of like trying to put their own fucking stamp on it. And it was like, Jesus Christ, could you not just, like, this is bigger than you wanting to fucking to say you're next hour in bed or something. But anyways, I think most of them have decided to just kind of cop themselves a bit, like, and just go along with the fucking thing instead of trying to stick their head, like, be the biggest fucking, the longest blade of grass. But hopefully there's a good turnout. Like, I would expect that there will be a good turnout. Like, I seen that poll on the Liberal, like, it was 20,000 votes and nearly 90% were saying that he should resign. Like, meet at 12 outside the Dáil. I know there's going to be like another like little micro protest across town, like, but if you're into that, you'll probably know all about it already. Like, but yeah, the big one. This is the big one. This is the make or break for. It could be our only protest of 2020, maybe, if things are going the way they are in Australia. So yeah, may as well get out for the day, because I know there was people up around here, like, and as soon as they heard, like, that there was like, oh, can I bring a tricolour? Like, they were straight away, yeah, no bother. So fair play to them for that, like, but yeah, it has to be done, like. Let's see, like, yeah, outside the Dáil. Like, I wonder, is there only going to be like any what you call it? I can't believe my lighter's broke. I'm absolutely heartbroken here. I wonder, is there any like restrictions specifically outside the Dáil or anything like that? There's pints after it. Oh Jesus, sure. You'd be giving away your name and everything then. You know exactly where you are. My lighter worked. I'm all happy again. But yeah, like, I was thinking about this stream, and I was like, it's so strange. Like, the more things change, the more they seem the same. That kind of way. Like, but I do think we are getting into the kind of crux of the matter here. Like, and like, imagine even 12 or 24 months ago, thinking like, that any, like, what's happening now. And like, people are waking up by the day, and I know it's a cliche at this stage. Like, it's going to be a fucking absolute mess. Like, whenever actually people do cop on, I was just kind of thinking, like, I'm kind of, it's nearly like, maybe it's not wishful thinking, like, but it's maybe a bit too far ahead to be worrying about now. Like, but whenever people actually do cop on, know what's going on, we're probably going to be the ones like trying to hold them back. Like, it's like, no, we'll get them into the court first, like, and then we'll deal with them after, like, But all right, thanks for coming, Kelly. But yeah, Jesus, like, it's I know what I would like to see, like, and I know that like the National Party as well, like, has been on top of this, like, and trying to get going properly all over the country. Like, it's going well in a lot of places, and it's getting going like properly in the other places, like, but getting the cultural aspect of things going back, and like the Irish language. Even I've seen a lot of people now, like, that would be involved with the party that are really kind of doing their bit for it, like, they'll keep the fuckle even, like, in a couple of sentences, and things like that. But that's so important. Like I remember growing up, hearing Irish was nearly like weird, but nowadays, like, you do hear people, like, even on the street, like, you hear people like, oh, Goramaya got and stuff, and like, it's such I remember there was a book I forget the name of it now, like, but it was basically about how the Irish language got destroyed, like, and it was, and it was, I've heard this mentioned by people before in my local area, like, but it was that whenever you people say like went into towns or something, they just assumed that they were English speakers. So whenever Irish speakers went into the town, they'd just start speaking English because they were like, oh, I don't want to be the weird one. Like, but I was at the stage now where if you see someone that you kind of know, like, they're going to have a couple of words at least, like, and if they don't, you're kind of like, I will screw you, like, you'll learn of it, will you? And I think that's like the first little building block, and it's nice to see because I know, like, well, obviously we've always had our historians, like we were the one of the best historically recorded countries in Western Europe. Like we avoided a lot of stuff. Well, the Danes destroyed a lot of stuff, and obviously the English fucking wrecked the place. Like, but the amount of information that has been kept, like, is just unbelievable. Like the annals of the Four Masters. I know the wee place down in North Leitrim where it was writ was a wee little monastery or whatever set up by St. Patrick, and then 1,000 years later, or 1,200 years later, the last big hurrah of it was that the Annals of the Four Masters was written in it. I think that's amazing. Like, yeah, I remember a couple of years ago I got big into reading about John O'Donovan, Eugene Curry as well. Two, like, they could understand like old Irish, like, like proper 6th century text, like, because the grammar and all it's a lot different. Like, it's obviously like neutral genders and stuff like this. So it was a lot like Latin. There was a lot of kind of Latinized aspects to it, like. But they were able to translate this stuff relatively well, and that's who translated the Seanachas Mór, like the ancient laws of Ireland, and they also John O'Donovan. He was over in a college in somewhere in like mainland Europe. I think it was like Bruges or something. He was, but he came across this manuscript, like, and it was just these lists of saints and places, like, and nobody knew anything about it. So he was like, I've never seen this before, like, he's a well-read fella. So he just started translating it, and he just called it the Martyrology of Donegal. But it's the same guy, Michael O'Clery, brother Michael O'Clery, whatever, that wrote the Annals of the Kingdom of Ireland and the Martyrology of Donegal, like, and nobody realised it, like even the expert, it's amazing. But you hear stories as well, like how the Seanachas Mór was saved out of England, and it was John O'Donovan. This was back in the 1800s or whatever, but it was in Oxford, or it was either Oxford or Cambridge. It was one of those two colleges anyway. The Four Master Bridge at Stonewall Jackson. You are absolutely correct. Like, it got badly damaged. We're still waiting for the county council to fix it, I think. I think we're allowed to drive across it again. But we got the Seanachas Mór, like, it was basically kept in a drawer in one of these colleges, and people thought it was Sanskrit because of the style of the writing that it's written in. It's like there's like big writing, big lines of writing across the page, and then on the top and on the bottom you have lines of writing, like kind of filling in the gaps of those letters, and then you have a fourth line running kind of between those three sets of lines, if you get me, going down the page. And everybody was looking at it and thought it was Sanskrit, and he was saying O'Donovan found it one day, and he was like looking through it, and he was like, holy shit, what is this, like. And he knew fine rightly, like, if the Brits find out that this is an Irish text, like, they're just going to take it outside and just destroy it, like. So he said it was Sanskrit, and then he knew a guy in Trinity College that had the ability to translate this. So they shipped it over to Ireland, and I think it could have been Curry, it could have been someone else though, but I think it was Curry, and he like went way out west with it, like, he got it in Trinity College, and he fucking legged it, hit it. But now it's like this big. You can get them big, massive, like, well, they're not all massive, but they're fairly sizable tomes of books, like, 6 volumes of this the Seanachas Mór. It's absolutely amazing stuff altogether. Like, I love sitting down and just reading it. Like, there's down in the Munster Gael Tacht, there's a place called Ballyverney, and the patron saint of Ballyverney is called Saint Gobnot or Gobnot, whatever you want to call her. And she was a female saint, like a monk from that area. I think she was from somewhere in Munster, anyway, as far as you know. But she's the patron saint of bees as well. Like, and she wrote a whole Brehon law tract about, if like a bee, if someone finds honey, who owns it? And, if your bees break out of the hive and go somewhere, who owns the bees? And all this kind of crack. Like, and that was used, like, for a lot of Europe. Like, they were like, holy shit, this one knew what she was talking about, like, But it was like, it wasn't common law, if you get me. It was like, it was an alternative to that. Like, it was kind of nearly mixed in with the canon law of the Roman Church, But it was like, it worked, so people used it. And it caught on, like. Did the Four Masters not record very ancient Irish history, like prehistory, and not what we have been told? Yeah, like they go from Kesser, who was, said to be the granddaughter of Noah, up until 1616 or 1617, something like that, after the flight of the Earls. I think the last entry in it goes up to the death of Reggie O'Neill, Reggie O'Neill, isn't it, or one of them boys? But yeah, it's the traditional history, the Gaelic history of Ireland. Like, goes through absolutely massive expanses of time. Like, like even Conor McNassa and everything. Like, absolutely crazy. Or Conor, I suppose I should call him. But I'd recommend anyone to read it. Like, it's like it does take a kind of a bit of strain on the brain, like, to kind of sit down, because like you're reading ancient Irish that's kind of half translated into English, but the English is like, ye old kind of English, But it's fantastic once you get into the swing of reading it. Like, you don't want to put it down, like. And then you hit a passage then, like, you can nearly tell where he stopped translating it for the day and, started up again. Like, in places it's like mid-sentence, because it's like the pattern changes or something, But I wish I was an Irish speaker, like, and translated into modern Irish, like, where applicable, and then just keep the old Irish, like, but just update the spelling or whatever. It'd be like, Jesus, it'd be you'd sell 80,000 copies, I'd say. You could sell them at about 100 quid a pop. But my Irish just isn't that good, like, so kind of sad about that. But like, even if you ever get a chance is to read the introduction, it's why the Seanachas Mór was written in the first place. Like, it's St. Patrick, But it's interesting, It starts off like why or who was involved writing it and where they wrote it. And then it explains, like, in the notes, the whole thing is like, has, what do you call those things? Like, little fucking sub notes, the whole way throughout it. Like, like, my brain farting, I can't think of the term. Like, whenever you put like a letter or a number beside a word, like, and then write a little bit about it at the bottom. But, like, it'll talk about, like, why is the place named first? Easy, because, or it's like, what is it? Oh yeah, why is the season named first? It's like, because God created time first, Like, it's like, it's unbelievable. Like, you need to just look at it, like, and kind of go through it, and it's like, Jesus, these boys were not stupid. Like, these boys were smart fellas. Like, and you think after the Seanachas Mór, like, Seanachas Mór was what? It was supposedly, at least, written in the time of St. Patrick, so 400s. And then if the next kind of, obviously there's loads of stuff in between this, in the 8th century. Like, you have the letters of St. Columbanus, and you have Columkill coming up through there, the eulogy of Columkill, like the oldest vernacular text in Europe. Like, and the Seanachas Mór is the second oldest vernacular law in the world after the Vedic laws, and there are a lot of similarities between them too, like the Hindu laws of Manu and the Seanachas Mór. Like, you don't have to be a conspiracy theorist to draw parallels there. Like, even fasting outside someone's house that's done you wrong and stuff like that. Let me see, just read it before. History books are destroyed paper. Blame like money as transferring COVID-19. Oh yeah, Oh yeah, read it before history books are destroyed. I should just 3 times. Like like this is what I've always believed. Like that Irish history was destroyed 3 times. The Vikings destroyed it. Uh, the a bishop, the bishop that established Oxford and Cambridge, destroyed it. And then in 1690, whenever William of Orange came to power, he destroyed it again. 3 times our history has been rewritten. And if you go back into like even say like the Ulster cycle, Cuchulainn and all that, you can nearly like if you look back at the original texts of that, like the original manuscripts from whenever, like the 1200s or whatever, which is funnily enough whenever Oxbridge or whatever, like whenever this all started kicking off, the Reformation of the monasteries and all this, like that's whenever you start seeing all these like different wordings and stuff that didn't exist until then. Like it's mad. Like reference or source notes. Thank you, Will. Found my brain just stopped working completely there. Like, but yeah, like I know there's a fella, and I'd love if he'd come on some evening for a chat about history, like because he's an absolute wealth of knowledge and he knows who he is too. Like, but so hopefully, hopefully he'll come on some evening because I love the. It's all right me just kind of sitting here talking about it, like kind of whatever comes onto my head. But if you get that back and forth, like like what about this or what about that, and someone will think, just the interactivity of our history, because to me, like history isn't written in a book, like as I was saying, like like the old fellas that I would have chatted to, like the old fellas that they would have chatted to, would have been around the time of the famine kind of stuff, like and it's just kind of like we all have a little bit of that, like, and trying to get that back. There's some energy in it, like, and some as in a hell of a lot of energy in that, and it just kind of keeps the whole thing going. Because like I know there's another member of the party up here, like, and he does be arguing people to be on about using Americanized terms and all, and he's like, I'm not fucking using them. Just fries his head. He's like, absolutely. He's like, nobody up here knows what the hell you're talking about. Whenever you're talking about fucking third positionism and all this kind of stuff, it's like I'm an Irish fucking nationalist. End off, like, I think that that's the truth, like. And then you'd be chatting about, like what was the difference between us as nationalists and Wolf Tone. People understand that. Whenever you go into like fucking, we're third positionist fucking, or the Iron Guard and all this kind of shit, like, and people are just like, what the fuck is he on about? Like, that alone, like, nice and easy. But, yeah, yeah, there's a load of, like, that's what I was saying earlier, like on the stream was, I was going to sit down, I had loads to talk about. I was going to kind of talk about my local area and stuff like that, and I just kind of started rambling. But like, I'd love to do a stream sometime. I was actually meant to write it down for someone. Someone was looking for it, but about the March of O'Sullivan Bear, and the Battle of Kinsale, all that kind of crack. Like, and it's definitely something I fucking probably should do, like, at this stage, because I suppose there's people that have done it before. There was an old teacher in Ballyshannon. I'm trying to think of his name. Oh, I lent the book to someone. He wrote like a little history on the March of O'Sullivan Bear, like, and they were tight boys. Like, this is after, like, say from Donegal, the Donegal connection there is the English had a garrison in Donegal town, and the O'Neills and the O'Donnells went to the monastery in like whatever 1601 or whatever, and the English were storing gunpowder in the Abbey in Donegal town. It's a lovely place. You should probably see it. If you're ever in Donegal, like, you're passing through, go look at the Abbey in Donegal town. And it was destroyed back then because the English were using it as a store, and they had all their gunpowder in it. And the O'Neills and the O'Donnells both attacked it together. It held out for like a month or whatever. But eventually, like, someone fucking managed to light one of the gunpowder barrels on fire inside, like, so it started blowing up rings around them, whatever, and the O'Neills and the O'Donnells started falling out with each other, and basically one like stuck the fingers up at the other and said, right, screw you, I'm going to the Battle of Kinsale, I don't care if you're coming or not. So I was saying, all the English started fucking blowing up in Donegal town, and the Irish started marching south towards Cork, and yeah, that's whenever then the shit hit the fan, and we ended up with the flight of the Earls. Like, but that would have been the period there where the maybe about 10 years after that would have been the end of where the annals of the Four Masters ended. The kingdom. But yeah, I suppose then we're kind of stuck with a fucking republic after that. But it's interesting too. Like, if you ever thought about like monarchist systems, I often kind of tried to look into like who would be the king of Ireland if we had a monarchy today. And it's actually, well, it kind of depends on what way you want to go after it. Like, there's we still have some chief of the clans, as they're called. Like, I know that, like, say now the Hymany, or Aime and Kellys, they were a big family. Like, say in obviously the Battle of Aughrim, they would have been that main family running that. Like, and the last of their clan died out in 1919, I think, if I remember correctly, in Venice. He was married to a woman who would have been a princess of the Holy Roman Empire. It was William Kelly was his name. And you still have the O'Neills in Portugal or Spain, one of them countries anyway. But they still actually have royal titles. He still actually claims the title of the Prince of Ulster. And then if you go from King James, his male line descendant, if you follow it down that way, he's actually a guy called Ludwig of Bavaria, and he's living in Ethiopia at the minute, running a school, or he got married a couple of years ago there, and him and his wife are down in sunnier climates. But yeah, it's just kind of interesting. It's like, alternative history kind of stuff. Alternative history would actually be a great way of learning history altogether, though. But we kind of have a hell of a lot of stuff that has been put to the wayside. Like even the famine or anything that crack in school, like you never fucking learned anything of value, really. Like, it's a crying shame. Like, most of the history I learned was, I used to finish school, and there was next door there was a guy working, and I used to go in and sit in the office, and fucking he'd sit and tell me like about fucking tribes in South America and what they do in Australia, and I would have been only fucking, from the age of about, no height up to about nearly secondary school. Like, I used to love going in and listening, and just he'd be working and telling stories, and he wasn't talking shit either. I got a better education off him than I did off the state. Probably fucking put me a bit mad, really, because, here I am now, like, rather than, being a normie. But anyways, it all works out in the end. But learning about all these different like comparative mythology. Like, he'd be like, "Do you ever hear the one about Fianna, say, like Finn McCool?" And he'd be telling me about them, like, and then he'd be like, "Did you ever know that there was a group in Colombia and they were called Fianna, and it worked on the same system?" And I'd be like, "Oh, that's amazing." And like, for years and years, then, like, you'd be going through, like, you'd be flicking through we'd be going through like National Geographic or something, like, in a magazine somewhere, and the next thing it'd be like, "Oh, they're after finding remnants of a fucking meteorite from 600 AD that tore up shitloads of fucking forestry in Colombia." And and then you're like putting together the two stories, and you're like, "Holy shit, that might actually happen." Like, and then I've got to the stage there where I'm just like, right, our history's right, the English are fucking lying, all them universities are just a load of shit. I couldn't be arsed listening to them, because they're all fucking Marxist, deconstructionist fucking liars, basically. And even if they think they're telling the truth, they're talking shit. Like, because some of the most fucking close-minded people I ever met in my life are people that went to universities, like, and then people then that, the most gifted workers, the most talented craftsmen, a lot of them never bothered with that shit, like, But the people that can't make anything and can't come up with any ideas and can only regurgitate, that's the fucking college education, I think that's why a lot of people, it doesn't suit them, But how can we unify our nationalist movement? By having a united nation, the McCarthy plan. Definitely, I think if if there was no problems in the country, we'd all be in a great fucking state. Like, but I'm afraid that's just a bit too simplistic at the minute. It's kind of a case of fucking whoever works the hardest now is going to get there, I think. So I suppose on that note, I'm an hour in, so I better try and get back to work, put in a couple hours complaining to local reps or something, and hit the hay for the night, because I'm going to be well rested for Saturday. And I hope you all turn up. 1 o'clock, turn up from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock outside the Dáil. Yeah, big smiles, fucking enjoy the day, but Jesus Christ, let them know what you're there for anyway. And I hope you all have a great night, and I'll see you on Saturday if I don't see you beforehand anyway. So all the best, lads.